Hey y'all, it's Fanged Pipsqueak Reads, and I'm here with another review, finally. Sorry about that. I just recently finished listening to Cynthia Pelayo's, I hope I pronounced that right. Cynthia, I'm sorry if I didn't. Children of Chicago. So it was an audiobook that is available on Audible, so I highly recommend to check it out. It is kind of a, how should I say, a crime horror story mixed with a lot of historical elements as well as fairy tales. So as soon as I heard that kind of combination, I was actually sold, because I love true crime. It wasn't actually true crime, but true crime is something I really enjoy. I love horror, big surprise, and I really love fairy tales. So, all of this smashed together, so good. And yeah, I really enjoyed her book. It's about Lauren Medina. She's a detective, like a homicide detective in Chicago, at the district, like the police precinct in Chicago. Oh, that was my cats. They're currently cleaning themselves up. I'm sorry about that. And she's kind of handling this kind of case in which some children are, just turning up murdered, and which is really, and for a reason that is really sad to say, according to Cynthia, this is a daily occurrence in Chicago. Chicago is like riddled with crime, and it's just a daily occurrence, and it was really heartbreaking to hear that. And she kind of notices, like, on the floor where the body of a child was discovered, is like a graffiti that is that says the Pied Piper. So she immediately knows that it has to do with this fairy tale character called the Pied Piper, the Pied Piper of Hamelin. So she's really convinced that it has something to do with what happened to her in the past, and what happened to her family in the past, and she's trying to, get all the information, and get all the evidence, and trying to find this Pied Piper before he kills more children. That's basically the gist of the story. And I just really, really enjoyed and appreciated Cynthia's just dedication and hard work into telling the story, basically, of Chicago in her novel. There were so many things that I've never heard about in Chicago. I mean, of course, I knew when she was mentioning, H.H. Holmes and his murder hotel. I mean, who hasn't heard about that? But, just all these descriptions about, like, Humboldt Park, Lincoln Park, and just all the places that are in Chicago just really made me feel like I was there. I've never been to Chicago. My husband has, but I've never been. And I just really wish that story had been out when my husband was in Chicago. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, because I think he really would have enjoyed that during his stay. So it was really, really nice. I really appreciate Cynthia's hard work and dedication into putting all of, Chicago's history into this little story. It was really great. I mean, I know a lot of people are not really interested into this kind of historical aspects of some, when you are expecting this kind of, like, is this supposed to be a horror story, or is it supposed to be a crime story, or is it supposed to be, like, mixed with fairy tales, or is it just a historical thing? I really appreciate it when authors go way and beyond to put this little, tidbits into the story, because, most of the time you're going to be, I didn't know about that. That's interesting. I really appreciate it, because I get to learn a lot of new things. So, yeah, good for that. There was not, like I said, there's a mix of all of these elements. So, you know, most of the elements that like that had more like an upper hand was, of course, the historical part, the crime part, and the fairy tale parts. There wasn't as much horror in it, you know. You know, aside from the fact that, you know, the children are getting killed, and, you know, by the hands of other children, which is awful. But, you know, when the horror came, like, especially through the image of this Pied Piper character, it was done really well. I mean, the hairs on my hand, on the back of my arms, they stood on end when every time he appeared and, you know, came to the children and just like, hey, you need to pay me your payment. And if you don't do that, you're gonna die. And just, you know, these descriptions, they were really creepy. And just how, and also how they died, like some of the children died, it was, yeah, it was brutal. So there are horror elements there, but it's genuinely and intricately mixed in with, you know, this Pied Piper character, which is really good. And I heard that also a lot of people did not like the main character, Lauren Medina, you know, the main detective. A lot of people were saying that she was kind of like an unlikable character, you know, for reasons, you know, that they have, of course. But for me, I did not, you know, same with then. I didn't, you know, she wasn't the best character in the world, but that's what made her so relatable. I mean, because you can't really just be this kind of goody two-shoe, you know, good working, hard-working cop. You know, I think most cops usually have some kind of things that they have to deal with. And Medina is... That was my cat leaving. I'm probably not going to edit this out. I mean, I can't be bothered. But, what was the thing? I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Why she's not, you know, being this kind of a likable character is what makes her really interesting. I mean, she's dealing with a lot of things from her family. You know, her father just recently died from Alzheimer's, and he was a police detective as well, who had been grooming her into becoming a police detective as well. And she had lost her baby sister when she was young, and her stepmother also died, and her real mother disappeared when she was little. So yeah, she has quite a lot of baggage. And I really enjoyed that. I mean, some people can't handle this kind of type of baggage, and it clearly shows through Lauren's character that, you know, she's not handling it well. And that's what I really liked about that. I mean, she was a morally great character. I mean, she wanted to do good by trying to find this killer and to protect the children of Chicago, but ultimately, because this was like this entity, like the Pied Piper entity, was too big for her to handle, that in the end she couldn't do it. She just had to accept the fact that this was just going to happen until he got his payment. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I also love the fact that Cynthia, you know, not just hammering down with the Pied Piper, which she kind of does though, but she also includes like a little tidbits from other fairy tales, which I really enjoy, because fairy tales used to be my number one thing to read when I was a kid. So I read all of, you know, Hans Christian Andersen's stories. I also read all of the Grimm stories. And I always try to find the ones that were the more gnarly ones, the ones that weren't edited to be suitable for children. I try to find the ones that were, you know, really disturbing. And she mentioned that as well. And I was just like, oh, I'm so happy to have like a fellow fairy tale lover here. And so she mentioned like this one book in the story, and I immediately went to Amazon and I'm like, I need this book, so I'm gonna order it right now. So I definitely recommend that. It's called Grimm's Grimmists. So I definitely recommend that. If you are into fairy tales, that is. There was this one thing that kind of like took me like pulled me away a little bit from the story. It was with the introduction of her husband, or ex-husband, as Lauren would say, Bobby. I mean, I like that he was this kind of, like a professor of fairy tales and everything, and she, and they were all and they two were connected through this love of fairy tale, but then, Medina being married to her work as a cop, and not really, being a loving wife, they kind of broke apart. But there's just one scene in the book that I kind of felt like it could have been like introduced a little bit, how did I say, earlier in the story. It was just a scene where Bobby is having like a lecture about fairy tales and how it works in society, and some kind of seminar that he was teaching. And they and then the students, they bring up the Pied Piper and what's happening in the city, and then there's this figure like way up in the back, and he has more information about the Pied Piper, and he kind of gets under Bobby's skin, but then nothing else is explored with that. It was just, I think it was kind of meant just to, to bring more like dread, like saying, hey, the Pied Piper is coming for more kids, maybe you want to do something about that. But I don't know, it felt kind of off, and it didn't really serve that much of a purpose, in my opinion. I feel like if you wanted to bring Bobby in there, and Bobby in for like a more, I don't know, to gain more sympathy, I think, for Lauren's character, I think he should have been brought in a little bit like earlier in the story. I mean, he's mentioned a couple of times, but then nothing else. They meet basically at the final third act of the book, and then there's this lecture, and then nothing else happens. So I kind of felt like he was kind of like an unnecessary character, except just to give more tidbits about the Pied Piper. But I think could have been done a little bit more organically. But yeah, that was basically the only thing that I felt that was a little bit off about the story. Other than that, the story was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend that you should guys check it out. It's available on Audible. It's also available on Amazon. And if you're really into like fairy tales and this kind of interestingly woven thread of crime and history and horror, you should definitely check it out. It's Cynthia Pelayo's Children of Chicago. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Just really, really enjoyable to read and listen. And before I forget, because I always forget about it, it's just, I'm so sorry, guys. I know this was supposed to be like my thing for this YouTube channel, but I always forget about it. But now, here I have the pop quiz for today. Alright, so who can tell me who wrote The Girl with the Matchsticks? You probably might have heard of it. It's a pretty famous story, a famous fairy tale. Who wrote The Girl with the Matchsticks? It's one of my favorite stories, and I cry every time. But yeah, if you can just, let me know what your answer, like in the comments, that'd be great. And try to remind me to do these little pop quizzes, because I always forget about them. So be sure to remind me every time. And if you like my reviews, please subscribe, like, and comment. And I hope I'll be able to get another review in this week. I'm almost done with one story, so yay! So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you have a good time. Bye.